Imagine being 18 years old, on vacation with your family in paradise, when the deadliest tsunami in recorded history strikes. 20 years later, cave divers exploring an underwater cavern system discover your clothes sealed in a carved niche in the rock face, preserved in a waterproof container with a message carved into the stone above in shaky letters. He said the wave was God's will. He said I was saved for a purpose. He kept me in the dark for 3 years. Emily Chen, 2004-2007. If you find this, I'm already dead. This is the story of Emily Chen, a high school senior from Seattle who vanished during the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami while on a family vacation in Phuket, Thailand. What investigators discovered about those 3 years and what happened during the tsunami that made Emily Chen disappear while her family survived would reveal one of the most disturbing cases to emerge from the disaster. The man who took her had been waiting for chaos, and when the wave came, he found his opportunity. December 2004, for the Chen family of Seattle, Washington, Christmas vacation in Thailand was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime. David Chen, 45, a software engineer at Microsoft, had saved for 2 years to take his family to Southeast Asia. His wife Margaret, 43, a high school art teacher, had always dreamed of seeing the temples of Thailand. Their daughter Emily, 18, a senior at Roosevelt High School, had been hesitant at first. She'd wanted to spend winter break with friends, but had eventually gotten excited about the adventure. They'd arrived in Phuket on December 20th, 2004, checking into the Seashell Resort in Kamala Beach, a quieter area north of the main Patong Beach tourist strip. The resort was modest but beautiful, with bungalow steps from the white sand beach and crystal clear Andaman Sea. Emily had never seen water so blue. She'd posted photos on her LiveJournal blog. Remember, this was 2004, before Instagram or smartphones, showing her on the beach, holding a coconut, smiling. "Thailand is unreal," she'd written. "Water like glass. Happiest I've been in forever." The Chens had spent the next few days doing typical tourist activities. They'd visited the big Buddha statue overlooking Phuket, taken a boat tour of Phang Nga Bay, shopped at the night markets, eaten street food. Emily had bought a traditional Thai silk scarf and a silver bracelet from a local artisan. She'd made friends with another American family at the resort, the Johnsons from California, who had a son Emily's age named Blake. On Christmas Day, December 25th, the Chens had attended a special buffet dinner at the resort. Emily wore a white sundress she'd bought at the market. David took a family photo by the decorated palm tree in the lobby. Margaret would later say it was one of the happiest moments of her life. Her family together, relaxed, healthy, safe. The next morning, December 26, 2004, Emily woke early. She was a runner, captain of her high school cross-country team, and wanted to run on the beach at sunrise. Margaret heard her leave the bungalow around 6:30 a.m. Through the window, she saw Emily stretching on the sand, then jogging south along the waterline, earbuds in, enjoying the solitude. By 7 a.m., the beach was quiet. A few early morning walkers, some fishermen preparing boats. The sea was unusually calm, glassy, barely a ripple. Several people later reported noticing how still the water was that morning, unnaturally still. At 7:58 a.m. local time, 240 miles to the west, a massive undersea earthquake occurred off the coast of Sumatra, Indonesia. Magnitude 9.1, the third largest earthquake ever recorded by seismograph. The rupture was over 800 miles long. It lifted the seafloor by several meters, displacing billions of tons of water. That water began moving outward in all directions at 500 miles per hour, the speed of a jet airplane. The Chens, having breakfast in their bungalow, felt nothing. Phuket was too far from the epicenter for the shaking to be noticeable. They had no idea that in approximately 90 minutes, a wall of water would reach their beach. Emily was still running. Blake Johnson, the teenager she'd befriended, later told investigators he saw her around 8:30 a.m. near the southern end of Kamala Beach, near the rocky point where the beach curved toward Patong. She'd waved at him. He'd waved back. That was the last time anyone from the resort saw Emily Chen. At 9:23 a.m., the ocean did something strange. It began pulling back, not like a normal tide. This was rapid, dramatic, the water retreating hundreds of meters in minutes. The seafloor was exposed. Fish flopped on the sand. Coral reefs that were normally underwater suddenly appeared. Boats in the shallow bay tilted and rested on the sand. Tourists walked out onto the exposed seafloor, amazed, taking photos, picking up stranded fish. No one understood what it meant. A few Thai locals knew. They began running inland, shouting in Thai and broken English, "Tsunami! Run! Get to high ground!" But most tourists didn't understand the word tsunami or didn't believe the warning. A tidal wave? Here? It seemed impossible. At 9:37 a.m., the wave appeared on the horizon, a dark line growing taller as it approached. Within seconds, people realized this wasn't a normal wave. This was a moving wall of water, 30 feet high in some places, churning with debris, advancing at 25 miles per hour. There was no time to run, no time to do anything but brace. The wave hit Kamala Beach with apocalyptic force. It picked up boats, cars, bungalows, trees, and thousands of people, sweeping everything inland. The Seashell Resort, located right on the beach, was hit directly. The first floor was obliterated. Walls collapsed, windows shattered, water poured through bungalows like rivers. David and Margaret Chen were in their bungalow when the wave struck. David grabbed Margaret and they ran to the second floor of the main resort, building as water surged around them. They survived, clinging to a railing as the water raged below, carrying debris, bodies, and the remains of the resort out to sea. When the water finally receded, not minutes but hours later, they searched frantically for Emily. She'd been running on the beach. Where was she? Had she made it to high ground? Was she at an evacuation center? They found Blake Johnson at a makeshift shelter. "I saw her earlier," he said, "down near the rocks, before the wave. I don't know where she went after." For 3 days, David and Margaret searched. The devastation was incomprehensible. Thousands dead, bodies everywhere, makeshift morgues in temples and school gymnasiums. They walked through those terrible places, looking at the dead, hoping not to find Emily, but terrified they wouldn't. On December 29th, Emily was officially reported missing to the Thai police. She was one of thousands. Her name went on lists. Her photo was posted at survivor centers. The U.S. Embassy was notified. But in the chaos, communications down, infrastructure destroyed, entire communities wiped out, finding one missing American teenager seemed impossible. The search for Emily Chen was extensive, but ultimately futile. International rescue teams, Thai military, volunteers, and devastated families all combed the ruins of Phuket's coastline for weeks. The first theory was the most obvious and heartbreaking. Emily had been on the beach when the wave hit and had drowned. Perhaps her body had been swept out to sea, never to be recovered. This was the fate of thousands, bodies carried by the retreating water into the Andaman Sea, lost forever. But Margaret couldn't accept this. Emily was a strong swimmer, she insisted to anyone who would listen, state champion. If anyone could survive being in the water, it was her. Investigators gently explained that swimming ability meant nothing against the force of a tsunami. The wave wasn't water you could swim in. It was a churning mass of debris, buildings, vehicles, moving at devastating speed. Even Olympic swimmers had drowned. The second theory involved displacement. Perhaps Emily had been carried inland by the wave, injured, confused, suffering from amnesia. Perhaps she was in a hospital somewhere, unable to identify herself. Perhaps she was in a shelter in another province, traumatized and uncommunicative. David and Margaret checked every hospital from Phuket to Bangkok. They showed Emily's photo at hundreds of shelters. They contacted the Red Cross, UNICEF, every aid organization tracking survivors and displaced persons. Nothing. The third theory was exploitation. In the lawless days after the tsunami, while authorities were overwhelmed and normal social structures had collapsed, there were reports of trafficking, kidnappings, opportunistic crimes. Young women were particularly vulnerable. Perhaps Emily had been taken by someone who'd used the chaos as cover. The FBI opened an investigation, working with Thai authorities and Interpol. They interviewed every foreigner who'd been in the area. They tracked known sex traffickers. They monitored ports and borders for signs of young women being moved illegally. No leads. By February 2005, the active search wound down. Over 8,000 people had died in Thailand alone. Emily's name was added to the memorial lists of presumed tsunami victims. Without a body, there could be no death certificate, but the official presumption was that Emily Chen had perished in the disaster. David and Margaret returned to Seattle, devastated. Emily's bedroom remained untouched. Her college acceptance letters, she'd been admitted to University of Washington and Seattle University, sat unopened on her desk. Her cross-country trophies collected dust. Margaret couldn't return to teaching. The sight of teenagers Emily's age was too painful. David threw himself into work, barely sleeping, barely eating. The marriage, strained by grief, began to crack. By 2006, they'd separated. By 2007, they'd divorced. The loss of Emily had broken them both, but they never stopped hoping. Every year on December 26th, they'd meet at Emily's favorite beach in Seattle, light candles, and remember. Every year, Margaret would search online for any news of unidentified Jane Does in Thailand, any reports of young women found with amnesia, any whisper that might mean Emily had survived. 20 years would pass. David remarried, though he still kept Emily's photo on his desk. Margaret never did. She became a victim's advocate, working with families of missing persons, helping them navigate the impossible grief of not knowing. And in a cave system beneath the Andaman Sea, sealed in darkness, Emily's final message waited to be found. December 15th, 2024, 20 years and 11 days before the anniversary of the tsunami, a team of technical cave divers from an international exploration group called Deep Earth Discoveries was mapping an underwater cave system off the coast of Phuket, near the Kamala Beach area. The team leader, James Richter, 42, a German cave diving instructor, had been exploring this particular system, known locally as the Siren Caves, for several years. The caves were extensive, dangerous, and largely uncharted. They required advanced technical diving skills, rebreathers, stage tanks, permanent guidelines, and extensive training. This wasn't recreational diving. This was professional exploration at depths exceeding 100 feet in zero visibility through passages barely wide enough for a human body. One mistake could be fatal. On this particular dive, James and his partner, Thai diver Somchai Prasert, were exploring a section of cave they'd mapped the previous year. They were extending their survey deeper into the system, documenting the cave's structure for scientific and safety purposes. At approximately 11:47 a.m., at a depth of 94 feet, about 600 meters from the cave entrance, James noticed something unusual. The main passage opened into a small chamber, about 10 feet in diameter with a domed ceiling. This wasn't uncommon in cave systems, but what was uncommon was a carved niche in the rock wall, about 3 feet off the floor, roughly 18 inches square and a foot deep. James swam closer, his powerful dive light illuminating the niche. Inside was a large plastic container, the kind with a rubber gasket seal that snaps closed. It was covered in algae and mineral deposits, but intact. Above the niche, carved crudely into the limestone rock, were words. James wiped away some of the growth and read, "If you find this, I'm already dead." His heart rate spiked. He signaled to Somchai. Both divers examined the carving. Below the first line were more words, harder to read but visible. Emily Chen, 2004, 2007. He kept me in the dark. He said the wave was God's will. James carefully removed the container from the niche. It was heavier than expected. He placed it in his mesh collection bag, and the divers began their slow ascent, following decompression protocols to avoid the bends. When they surfaced at 1:15 p.m. and reached their support boat, James immediately contacted Thai authorities. "We found something," he told the Coast Guard dispatcher. I think we found evidence related to a missing person from the tsunami from 2004. By 3:00 p.m., Phuket police had arrived at the dock. By 4:00 p.m., the container had been transported to the forensics lab in Phuket City. The container was opened under controlled conditions, photographed at every stage. Inside, protected by layers of plastic bags, were 1. A white sundress, badly stained but identifiable as women's clothing. 2. A silver bracelet with Thai script engraving. A waterproof notebook, the cheap kind sold at tourist shops, pages filled with writing. 4. A driver's license, Washington State, photo of a young woman, name Emily Chen, DOB 05/12/1987. The forensic team immediately contacted the U.S. Embassy. The embassy contacted the FBI. The FBI contacted the Seattle field office. By December 16, 2024, David Chen received a phone call that would change everything. "Mr. Chen, this is Special Agent Lisa Morrison with the FBI. We need to talk to you about your daughter, Emily. We believe we found evidence indicating what happened to her after the tsunami." David and Margaret flew to Thailand on December 18, 2024. They arrived in Phuket on December 19, exactly 20 years and 1 week before the anniversary of Emily's disappearance. At the police station, Detective Inspector Narong Bunsri showed them the items. The sundress was the one Emily had worn on Christmas Day. Margaret recognized it immediately, started crying. The bracelet was the one Emily had bought at the market. David had been there when she'd purchased it, but it was the notebook that held the truth. The notebook contained approximately 80 pages of entries written in Emily's handwriting, confirmed by comparison to her high school notebooks that David had saved. The entries were dated sporadically, ranging from December 27, 2004 to March 15, 2007. Detective Narong began reading excerpts aloud, translated when necessary. Some entries were in broken Thai that Emily had apparently learned. The story that emerged was devastating. December 27, 2004. "I'm alive, but I don't know for how long. When the wave came, I ran toward the rocks. I thought I could climb above the water. A man grabbed me, said he knew a cave, said we'd be safe there. He pulled me into this opening in the rocks as the water hit. We went deep inside. The water came in, but we were above it. He saved my life. His name is Somchai. He's Thai, maybe 40s. He lives in the caves. He has supplies here, food, water, lights. He says the tsunami destroyed everything. He says everyone at the resort died. He says my parents are gone. He won't let me leave. He says it's too dangerous outside. He locked a gate at the cave entrance. He says it's for my protection. January 2005. He lied. I can hear helicopters sometimes. I can hear boats. People are out there. People are searching. But when I scream, he hits me, says I'm ungrateful, says he saved me, says I should thank him. He brings food every few days, leaves me in the dark most of the time. I think he lives somewhere else but comes here to check on me. I tried to escape once when he opened the gate. He caught me, tied my hands, said if I try again he'll let me drown when the tide comes in. The entries continued, documenting a nightmare of captivity. Somchai, which was obviously not his real name, had apparently built a hidden living space in a cave chamber accessible only by swimming through underwater passages. He'd stocked it with supplies, created an air pocket, and used it as some kind of survivalist retreat. When the tsunami struck, he'd seen Emily running toward the rocks and had grabbed her, pulling her into the cave system. Whether his initial intention was rescue or abduction was unclear. But once inside, he'd made the decision to keep her. June 2005. He says I'm his now, says no one is looking for me anymore, says everyone thinks I died in the tsunami. He's probably right. It's been 6 months. He brings me Thai newspapers sometimes. I've seen the memorial lists. My name is on them. I'm officially dead. No one's coming. December 2005, 1 year. I've been here 1 year. He comes every few days. Sometimes he just sits and talks to me in Thai. I'm learning the language, not because I want to, because I have to understand him. He says the wave was God's will. Says it was meant to cleanse the earth. Says God saved me through him. Says I'm chosen. He's insane. But he's all I have. The entries became less frequent as time passed. Emily was conserving the notebook, using it sparingly. But they showed a woman slowly losing hope, adapting to captivity as a survival mechanism. 2006. I've stopped counting days. He still comes. Still brings food. Still talks about God's plan. Sometimes he touches me, and I pretend I'm not here. I pretend I'm running on the beach at home. I pretend I'm at school with my friends. I pretend this isn't real. March 2007. I'm dying. I've been sick for weeks. He won't take me to a hospital. Says doctors will ask questions. I think it's my appendix. The pain is unbearable. I carved my message in the cave wall while he was gone. I put my clothes and ID in this container. I hid it in the wall. If someone finds this after I die, tell my parents I tried to survive. Tell them I thought about them every day. Tell them I'm sorry I went running that morning. Tell them I love them. The final entry was dated March 15, 2007. Emily Chen had been held captive in that cave for over 2 years before dying of what was likely a ruptured appendix or peritonitis. But the most disturbing revelation was yet to come. The investigation to identify Somchai began immediately. Thai police had several advantages: Emily's detailed descriptions in the notebook, the location of the cave, and 20 years of advances in forensic technology. The cave system where the container was found was surveyed extensively. The main chamber where Emily had been held was located about 150 meters from the entrance, accessible only by diving through partially submerged passages. The chamber showed signs of long-term habitation: old food containers, water jugs, batteries, rope, and disturbing remnants, including a chain bolted to the rock wall. On the wall, Emily's carved message was photographed and documented. He said the wave was God's will. He said I was saved for a purpose. He kept me in the dark for 3 years. Emily Chen, 2004-2007. If you find this, I'm already dead. The carving had been done with a sharp rock or metal tool, the letters shaky and irregular. Emily had carved it knowing she was dying, wanting to leave some evidence of what had happened to her. But where was Emily's body? Forensic teams searched the cave thoroughly. They found bones in a deeper chamber, human remains, female, approximate age 17 and 20, with evidence of untreated abdominal trauma. DNA testing confirmed Emily Chen. She'd been dead for 17 years and 9 months, lying in a cave 600 meters from where tourists snorkeled and swam, her grave hidden underwater. The investigation now focused on identifying her captor. Emily's notebook provided clues: male, 40s in 2004, would be 60s now, Thai national, fluent in English, knowledge of the cave systems, survivalist mindset, religious delusions, possible dive instructor or fisherman, knew the caves well. Detectives reviewed records of every Thai male working in the tourism or diving industry in Phuket in 2004-2007. They cross-referenced with individuals who'd exhibited concerning behavior, had histories of violence, or had been reported for inappropriate conduct with tourists. One name emerged: Narong Bunsri, different from the detective, common Thai name. Age 44 in 2004, former dive instructor who'd worked at several shops in Kamala Beach, multiple complaints from female tourists about inappropriate touching and unwanted advances. Fired from 2 dive shops. Known to spend excessive time in the caves, leading unauthorized tours. But Narong Bunsri had died in 2018. A fishing accident, officially. His body had been found in the Andaman Sea. Or had it? Investigators exhumed the grave registered to Narong Bunsri. The body was male, approximately the right age, but DNA testing revealed it wasn't Narong Bunsri. It was an unidentified drowning victim who'd been buried under Narong's name, possibly because Narong had been the one to find the body and identify it. Narong Bunsri had faked his own death. A manhunt began. Facial recognition was run on Thai CCTV systems. Border crossings were monitored. Interpol was notified. On December 23, 2024, a tip came in from a monastery in northern Thailand near Chiang Mai. A monk there thought he recognized the photo of Narong Bunsri. "He's been here for about 6 years," the monk said. "Calls himself Brother Somchai. Says he came to repent for his sins." Thai police raided the monastery on December 24, 2024. Narong Bunsri, now 64, was arrested without resistance. He was living as a Buddhist monk, having shaved his head and taken vows. During interrogation, Bunsri was calm, almost serene. He admitted everything. "I saw her running when the water pulled back," he said. "I knew the wave was coming. I'd felt the earthquake. I was in my boat. I knew what it meant. I saw her near the rocks and I thought, this is an opportunity. God has given me an opportunity. An opportunity for what? To save someone, to have company, to not be alone anymore. I'd been preparing that cave for years. Supplies, food, everything I needed to survive the end times. When the tsunami came, I knew it was the beginning, God's judgment. And I saw her as a sign, someone to share my sanctuary with. So you kidnapped her. I rescued her. The wave would have killed her. I brought her to safety. You imprisoned her for over 2 years. I gave her life. Yes, she couldn't leave, but she was alive. Everyone else died. I kept her alive. Until she died of a treatable medical condition because you refused to get her help." Long pause. "I couldn't take her to a hospital. They would have taken her away. They would have separated us. God had brought us together. You raped her repeatedly. We lived as man and wife. She was a child. You held her captive. I gave her purpose. Psychiatric evaluation found Bunsri competent but suffering from grandiose religious delusions and narcissistic personality disorder. He'd rationalized his crime as divine mission, convinced himself he'd been Emily's savior rather than her destroyer. The most chilling discovery came from his possessions at the monastery. In a locked box under his bed, investigators found a photo of Emily, taken without her knowledge before the tsunami. Her high school ID said he'd stolen it from her belongings. A diary detailing his observations of Emily before the tsunami. He'd been watching her for days, and a list of other young female tourists he'd considered but hadn't acted on. Emily hadn't been randomly grabbed during the chaos. She'd been selected. Bunsri had been stalking her since the Chens arrived in Phuket. The tsunami had simply provided the perfect opportunity to take her. Narong Bunsri was charged with kidnapping, rape, false imprisonment, and murder. Thai prosecutors sought the death penalty. The trial of Narong Bunsri began in April 2025 in Phuket Provincial Court. Media attention was global. This was a cold case from the deadliest tsunami in history, finally solved 20 years later. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence. Emily's notebook detailing the captivity, her carved message in the cave, forensic evidence from the cave chamber, Emily's remains showing death from peritonitis, Bunsri's own confession, his diary showing premeditation. The defense attempted to argue mental illness, that Bunsri's religious delusions had impaired his judgment. But the prosecution showed that Bunsri had functioned normally in society for years before and after Emily's captivity. He'd held jobs, paid taxes, interacted with people without incident. He'd only found religion and joined the monastery after Emily died, possibly from guilt, possibly to hide. He knew exactly what he was doing, the prosecutor argued. He stalked Emily Chen for days. He waited for the tsunami. He used the chaos to kidnap her. He held her prisoner for over 2 years. He raped her repeatedly. And when she became ill, he let her die rather than risk getting caught. This is not insanity. This is calculated predation. The most devastating testimony came from David and Margaret Chen, testifying via video link from Seattle. They couldn't bear to be in Thailand again. David, his voice breaking, Emily was supposed to come home in January 2005 and start her last semester of high school. She was supposed to go to prom. She was supposed to graduate. She was supposed to go to college. Instead, she spent over 2 years in a cave in the dark, held captive by a monster who used the worst natural disaster in modern history as an excuse to destroy her life. Margaret crying, "I've spent 20 years thinking Emily drowned in the tsunami, thinking her death was instant, that she didn't suffer. Now I know she survived, and I wish she hadn't. I wish the wave had taken her quickly, because what this man did to her, keeping her in darkness, raping her, letting her die slowly of an infection, that's so much worse than drowning. He made her last 2 years on Earth a living hell." Emily's notebook was read in its entirety in court. Jurors wept. Several had to take breaks. The judge called it one of the most disturbing pieces of evidence I've encountered in 30 years on the bench. Bunsri showed no emotion throughout the trial. When allowed to speak, he said only, "I kept her alive when everyone else died. That should count for something." The jury deliberated for 4 hours, guilty on all counts. At sentencing in June 2025, Judge Amnue Fakdikam delivered the verdict: death penalty by lethal injection. "Narong Bunsri," the judge said, "you used one of humanity's greatest tragedies as cover to commit unspeakable crimes against a child. You stole Emily Chen's life twice, once by kidnapping her, once by letting her die. You caused her parents 20 years of unbearable uncertainty, then 20 years of unbearable truth. You have shown no remorse, no humanity, no recognition of the magnitude of your crimes. Thai law allows for the death penalty in cases of murder with extreme cruelty. This case exceeds any definition of cruelty I have encountered. You will be executed for your crimes." Bunsri showed no reaction. As guards led him away, he looked up at the courtroom ceiling and smiled, that same serene smile he'd had at the monastery. He remains on death row at Bangkok's Bang Kwang Central Prison, awaiting execution. Thailand carries out executions by lethal injection, though appeals can take years. Emily Chen's remains were returned to Seattle in July 2025. A funeral service was held at the same church where a memorial had been held in 2005, but this time there was a casket. This time, her family could finally lay her to rest. She was buried at Evergreen Washali Cemetery with a headstone that reads, Emily Grace Chen. May 12, 1987, March 5th, 2007. Beloved daughter. Lost to the wave, stolen by evil. Finally home. The Siren Caves where Emily was held that had been permanently closed to diving. The Thai government has sealed all entrances with concrete barriers. A sign in Thai and English warns, "These caves were the site of a crime. No entry. Violators will be prosecuted." At Kamala Beach, near where Emily was last seen running on December 26, 2004, a memorial bench has been placed with a plaque bearing her photo and the inscription, "In memory of Emily Chen and all victims of the 2004 tsunami. May they rest in peace in the light they were denied." David and Margaret have reconciled, not romantically, but as united parents grieving their daughter. They've established the Emily Chen Foundation, which provides services to families of missing persons and advocates for better international coordination in disaster response. For 20 years, we thought Emily died in the tsunami, David said at the foundation's launch. We were told to find closure, to accept that she was gone, to move on. But she didn't die in the tsunami. She survived it. And then, she was stolen by someone who used the disaster as camouflage for his crime. How many other families are in that same situation? How Many people vanished in the chaos of that day who weren't actually killed by the wave. We'll never know. But Emily left us a message. She carved it in stone. She wanted us to know what happened. She wanted justice, 20 years late, but she got it. The cave divers who found Emily's message, James Richter and Somchai Prasert, have been commended by both Thai and U.S. authorities. They've donated all the media payment offers they received to the Emily Chen Foundation. "We were just mapping caves," James said. "We do it for science, for exploration, for the love of diving. We never expected to find something like that. But I'm glad we did. I'm glad Emily's message finally reached the surface. I'm glad her family finally has answers." The case has prompted renewed investigation into other missing persons from the 2004 tsunami. Thai authorities are reviewing all cases where bodies were never found, looking for any patterns that might suggest crimes hidden by the disaster. 23 additional cases have been flagged as suspicious. People who vanished near areas where Narong Bunsri was known to operate, or in circumstances that don't quite match typical tsunami drownings. Several of these cases involved young women. Bunsri has been questioned about these cases. He smiles, but says nothing. If there are other victims, their secrets remain in the caves, the forests, the hidden places where predators take their prey. The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami killed approximately 230,000 people across 14 countries. It's remembered as one of the deadliest natural disasters in recorded history. Memorials stand in every affected nation. Survivors gather each December 26th to remember the dead. But Emily Chen's story reminds us that sometimes the disaster itself isn't the only danger. Sometimes the wave brings chaos, and in that chaos, evil finds opportunity. Narong Bunsri saw the tsunami coming. He felt the earthquake, understood what it meant, had perhaps a 90-minute warning. Instead of helping people evacuate, instead of using his knowledge to save lives, he saw it as an opportunity to hunt. He selected Emily Chen days before the wave struck. He stalked her. He waited. And when the water pulled back and panic set in, he grabbed her, pulled her into his prepared cave, and locked her away while rescue workers and grieving families searched the ruins. For over 2 years, Emily lived in darkness. She learned Thai. She adapted to captivity. She survived when thousands didn't. And then she died of an infection that would have been treatable with basic medical care because her captor valued his freedom more than her life. Her final act was carving a message in stone. "If you find this, I'm already dead." It took 20 years, but someone found it. The cave held its secret for 2 decades. The rock preserved Emily's words. The sealed container protected her notebook. And when the time came, when the right divers entered the right chamber and looked at the right wall, her message emerged into the light. Not all the dead from December 26, 2004 died in the wave. Some drowned in the aftermath, in darkness, in captivity, in caves beneath the ocean where no one thought to look. Emily Chen was one of them. But unlike the others who remain missing, whose families still wonder, whose graves are empty, Emily left evidence. She fought to be remembered. She carved her truth in stone. And 20 years later, in a cave beneath the Andaman Sea, the stone finally spoke.